order of the Mendocino Council of Governments, and can we have roll call?
You sure can. Director Jim Brown.
Here.
Director Mike Carter.
Here.
Director Greta Connie. Is Greta on here?
I am.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, I can barely hear you. Director Scott Ignacio.
Here.
Director Tess Alban Smith. Is she here?
She just joined. She may have missed.
Oh, there she is. I see her. Hi. Okay. Director John Haschek.
Here.
Tasha Alsren.
Here.
And Chair Dan Jurdy.
Here. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we're going to convene the Regional Transportation Planning Agency and immediately recess as that and reconvene the Policy Advisory Committee. First thing on our agenda is the consent calendar. Do we have any comments on the consent calendar, either by board members or by the public?
Doesn't look like it. And we have not received any comments prior to the meeting. We've received requests to participate in the meeting, but not written comments.
Okay, if we don't have any comments, would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Ignacio moves to adopt as presented.
Second. I will second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Director Jim Brown.
Yes.
Director Mike Carter.
Yes.
Director Greta Connie.
Yes.
Director Scott Ignacio.
Yes.
Director Tess Alban Smith.
Yes.
Director John Haschek.
Yes.
Tasha Alsren.
Yes.
And Chair Dan Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go to public comments on non-agenda items. And members of the public are welcome to comment on items that are not on the agenda, but we won't be able to take action if they're not on today's agenda. Do we have any comments on non-agenda items? I see a hand from Jessica Stellato.
Hi, everyone. I am calling into public comment today because up here in Round Valley, we have a project that Caltrans is taking on, the Clean California grant to do some beautification and safety. 60%
Yes.
And it sounds like because Clean California has such a very tight window of time need to complete a project, and we just had our first steering committee meeting this last week. It might not be possible to get sidewalks, and some of the places are just really dangerous right in our downtown, right outside our one thriving restaurant. And I have videos that I did not bring today, but people walking in the bike lanes and zigzagging around parked vehicles. So my appeal to you as this board, who I know really does care about providing safe and healthy community infrastructure, is for us to figure out a way to make sure we get those much needed pedestrian infrastructure alongside this project in whatever way possible. If it is possible to quickly toss in some sidewalks, I know things don't really work that way in transportation planning, but if that's possible to get them in the Clean California grant right now, then we hope for that. That's our easiest, quickest hope. But if not, we would like to make sure that there's some other partner project that was where we hold space in the Clean California project for the pedestrian infrastructure and bring in the actual building of the sidewalks or whatever at a follow-up phase or follow-up project in the very near future. We have people driving incredibly dangerously, which is what spurred this use of Clean California funds to help with that, along with we have a dire need for beautification. So we're in the community very grateful for this project, but we really, really need to make sure that we don't get this project completed and then not have the safety improvements that we also really, really need. That's my appeal to all of you. I look forward to working with you in some capacity or whoever can help us with that. Thanks.
All right, I could just quickly comment on that. I know it's a non-agenda item, so we can't have discussion, but I do want to let MCOG board members know that staff is participating in the Caltrans efforts to develop that project. There are some very strict time constraints with the Clean California program, and that's the real issue that makes it difficult to do a lot of different types of things. But we will be working with them to develop this project, and they have indicated that they will try to be as flexible as possible to accommodate the community's wishes.
Do we have any other comments on non-agenda items? Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we'll recess as the Policy Advisory Committee and reconvene as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. Or no, sorry, we're gonna go to the regular calendar, which is report and possible direction on the Gualala Downtown Streetscape project.
All right, thank you. So I will just give an introduction, and then we do have staff here from Caltrans that I believe will be providing some information as well. Okay, thanks. All right, so this is a project that's been in the works for many years. As you all know, MCOG has provided STIP funding through multiple STIP cycles for project development on this project. It is currently funded through the right-of-way phase. It does not have construction funding secured, and construction is currently estimated at a little over $7 million. We did recently apply for an active transportation program grant. We worked with Caltrans to put together that grant application, and that was just submitted in June. We'll know the results of that in mid-October, I believe, is when we'll get the CTC's initial recommendations on that. Ultimately, the project will provide sidewalks and bike lanes and streetscape elements through downtown Gualala along SR1. It's been in project development for several years. The draft environmental document was initially released for circulation in 2019, and since that time, there's been kind of ongoing public comment received and efforts on the part of the Caltrans project team to develop project alternatives that addressed the community's concerns. So some of the biggest issues that have come up from the community during that time, I think you've probably heard a lot about these, but they've included the need for retaining walls due to the slope and width of the project. The on-street parking is one of the biggest community issues that have been identified. And then on the Caltrans side, just things that have added to the project. There have been some staffing changes and funding constraints. We've supplemented the funding on this project a couple of times because of that. So those are some of the issues that have come up with the project over the years. Most recently, we have had kind of a significant change, and I will let Caltrans elaborate on that. But essentially, the big community issue is whether or not the project can retain on-street parking. So currently through downtown Gualala, there is on-street parking along both sides of the highway. It's uncontrolled, and it does present a challenge for people, pedestrians and cyclists who have to kind of weave in and out of cars. It's also a challenge because it is completely uncontrolled. For people turning onto the highway, it creates a visibility issue. However, there have been people in the community that are concerned about completely eliminating on-street parking as well. And so that has really driven the efforts on the part of Caltrans to come up with a compromise, an alternative that presents a compromise of those views. The last major community outreach took place last winter and spring, and then Caltrans has been working on project concepts that incorporated the feedback from that effort since that time. As I mentioned, there have been some very recent changes. At the time of our last board meeting, they had sort of just come to light, and Caltrans was working with county planning staff and coastal commission staff at that time to get some clarity, and it did require the need for some work with Caltrans safety and operations staff. Essentially, the change has been a position on whether or not a town plan amendment would be required and would be supported. So currently the Gualala town plan does not, or it calls for the elimination of on-street parking through downtown Gualala on SR1. And previously there had been some question on the part of the county as to whether that would trigger the need for a town plan amendment. The town plan, of course, is part of the general plan and the local coastal plan. So it is in the coastal zone, it requires coastal commission approval as well. I and Caltrans project staff met several years ago with county planning staff and coastal commission staff, and they said that if a town plan amendment was needed to retain that, if that was the wish of the community, the consensus of the community, that they would support that. However, the very recent change, there's been different staff at coastal commission, and so their position on whether or not to support a town plan amendment has changed. And so their recent stance was they could only support that if there were operational or safety concerns that would require the retention of on-street parking. So that is a significant change. Of course, if we had known that a while back, it could have really shaped what has been done with this project over the last couple of years. But that is the current position of Coastal Commission staff. So I'll turn it over. Actually, before I do, I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Mattioli from Caltrans. But before I do that, I want to take a minute and say a big thank you to Frank Demling, who is on this call also. So Frank was the project manager for this project for many years. And he has just retired. He actually retired. His last day was Friday. And he's been trying to retire for a while, but because of his dedication to not just this project, but all of the projects that he is in charge of, he has put off that retirement. But it has finally happened, and we will really miss him. He's been so dedicated to this. He's just gone above and beyond, putting in, many hours, and I think really, really going the extra mile to talk to community members and try to make sure that this project was something that ultimately would reflect what the community as a whole wanted. So thank you to Frank. We wish you weren't leaving, but also wish you a very happy retirement. And I do understand we may get him back. He may come back as a retired annuitant, but he will not be the full-time project manager on this project anymore. So thank you, Frank. And thank you. And he's here today on his own time, just to show the level of dedication that he has. So that's all. And I'll turn it over to Jamie to give some more information.
Thank you so much, Nafili. Jamie Mattioli. I'm the corridor manager for the Mendocino Highway 1 project. So projects on the coast there are within my group of project managers. Please reach out anytime if you have any questions or concerns. Nafili, you just put that report so well. You really gathered the information, and I don't have a lot to add. I also want to thank Frank, who is here today. He is retired. We're going to miss him and his incredible leadership, and we do hope to get him back. That's on the record. So Karen Coonrod is, she was the project engineer on this project for some time, and the project senior rather. And Karen is transitioning into the PM job, and she has kindly agreed to take over this project with the project manager role. So we have someone who's been familiar with the project for a long time and really understands the unique needs of this project, the unique needs of the community. So we're very grateful to Karen that she's carrying this forward. And with that, I know Frank isn't a Caltrans employee, but I welcome Frank if you have anything to add about this new alternative and the schedule that we foresee and the impact that we see moving forward, please, Frank.
Well, thanks, Jamie, and thank you, Nafili. Welcome, everyone. Yeah, the project development team, after speaking with the Coastal Commission staff and with the Mendocino County Planning and Building, in determining that unless there was a safety or operational need that could warrant retention of on-street parking, Coastal Commission staff felt that because there wasn't a clear consensus within the community, they not support a town plan amendment. So the PDT took a closer look at those comments that had been submitted by community members during circulation of the draft environmental document, as well as numerous letters that had been sent by community members. Various petitions had been circulated through town and also online. And based on those comments, it was clear that the majority of the community was opposed to a continuous two-way left turn lane, while at the same time recognizing that the concentration of traffic at the south end of town did warrant a left turn pocket or a short left turn lane to serve both the surf properties and the Sunstrom Mall. In addition to that, a significant number of community members asked that the left turn lane as you're heading southbound, turning onto Ocean Avenue, be made a part of the project because of a number of close calls, rear end accidents right there as you're heading southbound before you're turning onto Ocean Avenue. So the PDT felt that it was really justified to keep that left turn lane at the south end of town to serve both the surf properties and Sunstrom Mall, and at the north end of town to turn onto Ocean Avenue. But at the same time, recognizing that the majority of the community is opposed to that continuous left turn lane throughout town, the PDT is proposing to narrow the roadway throughout the center of town so that you would narrow from the south end where you had the turn lane down to two 11-foot lanes and two 5-foot bike lanes. That would give you an overall roadway width of 32 feet. Now, since the right-of-way would be 60 feet, that provides 28 feet, 14 feet on either side of the roadway for which to install a 6-foot wide curvilinear sidewalk where possible. And that then provides 8 foot of room as the curvilinear sidewalk meanders or through that center part of town to install landscaping. We felt that that was probably the compromise that the community would be looking for. It doesn't make everyone happy, especially with the elimination of on-street parking, but it does provide what we feel is a reasonable compromise to narrow the roadway as a traffic calming measure and provide more room for that curvilinear sidewalk in the middle of town and still keep enough room to provide landscaping. So that's the direction right now that the PDT is heading in. At this point in discussions with the senior environmental scientist, Liza Walker, it's very unlikely that there would be a need to recirculate the draft environmental document. But once the final mapping has been provided to environmental, they'll make that decision. But right now, it does seem unlikely that there would be a need to circulate that draft environmental document. So next step would be to update the cost estimate mapping for right-of-way acquisition. Right-of-way acquisition, of course, cannot begin until you have project approval and a final environmental document. So over the next 2 months, that information would be provided to right-of-way engineering by design so that the cost estimate maps can be updated and be ready to prepare basically the appraisal maps that would then be used by right-of-way to negotiate for acquisition. So long-term, of course, a lot of the funding will depend on the ATP grant being approved. If that is not approved, Caltrans has placed the Gualala Downtown Enhancement Project in a project 0L270, which is also a drainage project along the Mendocino coast. But when that project is programmed, a child project would be created specifically for the Gualala Downtown project that would come from SHOP funding rather than STIP funding. So that's pretty much what I have, but I'd definitely be willing to take questions. And again, I no longer represent Caltrans. I'm just here as a private citizen and support of my old boss, Jamie Mattioli, and Nafili, and also the new PM, Karen Coonrod. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. I have nothing to add to that, Nafili.
Okay, before we go to public questions or comments, do we have any board member questions or comments? Not seeing any. Okay, I see a hand raised by Tom Murphy from Gualala.
Tom, we can't hear you.
You'd think I would have gotten that down by now. Frank, I wanted to add my congratulations on your retirement, and nice to see you here today. I wanted to go over a couple of things you said to make sure I understood them correctly. Under the proposal you're developing, there would be no interim or permanent parking anywhere in the project. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And yeah, I wanted to modify one tiny thing you said, that the community does not support the continuous two-way left turn lane. I don't personally think that that two-way left turn lane is necessary on the north end of town for most of it, except at that intersection. However, in the survey you did in 2021, there was a slight majority that favored 52%, supported the two-way left turn lane from Center to Church. So yeah, I guess that's correct. It didn't provide it from Church to Ocean. I think this is generally good news, and I'm very glad to hear that there would be no need for recirculation and for an amendment to the town plan. Those are major strides forward, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments? Robert?
Yes, I wanted to congratulate Frank also on his departure from Caltrans and for all his hard work. Also Nafili and the rest of the newer staff or older staff, Karen and Liza. It is encouraging to hear this news. Weekend after weekend, we see that our town in the most congested part of the downtown core is just not working. And so if we get parking out of that, at least at downtown core, and now I'm hearing the good news of all together we're removing the parking, I'm very ecstatic about this. I'm very happy to hear this, and I'm hoping we go full steam ahead and get this project funded and going down the road. Thank you.
Director Hashak.
It's just a question about the bike lanes. Would the bike lanes continue on, or would they just go for that section?
The bike lanes would be constructed within the project limits, so that would start just right there at, I believe, Center Street and go up to Ocean Avenue, not beyond what we have for the project limits itself. Of course, Caltrans takes an incremental approach to putting in bike lanes where feasible or widening the existing roadway. Of course, the Mendocino coastal element dictates a 32-foot wide roadway, 12-foot lanes, 4-foot shoulders where possible. So we are looking at improving sections of State Route 1 along the Mendocino coast where it's feasible to widen the shoulders to add that 4-foot paved shoulder. But within the Gualala town, we're looking at going with a class 2 bikeway, which is 5 foot wide.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dave?
Thank you very much. I want to echo comments and compliments to Caltrans staff and leadership by Frank Dengling over the years. And I look forward to continuing to work with the staff that are taking up the baton. This new configuration is exactly what's called for in modern transportation planning and community building. This is precisely the best way to use a 60-foot right-of-way in downtown Gualala. The narrowing will calm traffic, and that slower speeds is exactly the safety improvement necessary to help motorists, cyclists, and pedestrians navigate the space in a safe way. The area given to bike lanes, it makes all the sense at this location where there's quite a few curb cuts and movements in and out of the roadway. That'll give bicyclists plenty of room to avoid trouble and stay seen. Wider sidewalks are going to be a tremendous resource in building a place of civic presence, of activity, working very, very well for adjacent businesses that are fronting the highway, but also creating a place for people to interact like they do right now. On any Saturday in the summertime, there's a lot of activity in town and up and down the street that at times is exposed to safety issues with motorists not necessarily being able to see pedestrians and vice versa. The area identified for landscaping is a practical designation. That's enough landscaping instead of a 2-foot strip. With that type of depth, that's going to be a very practical opportunity for all kinds of landscape implementation, everything from natives to decoratives, and will likely attract local support for maintenance and operations. So long story short, thank you. Thank you very much for listening. I know it's been a long road. This latest configuration really is what the town's been calling for. It's what the Caltrans recent policy or renewal of the policy of complete streets is calling for in communities like this. So I look forward to this happening. Fingers crossed for the ATP funding, but I'm glad to see that there's a shot backup. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dave.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh, I want to say thank you. I decided to log in to see what was going on. I was figuring it was going to be like watching the Senate where nothing really happened and everything that did happen was bad. But it's good. And I look forward to being able to walk downtown. And I live just across from Junior's. I don't walk downtown. It's not safe. It's just not safe. So I look forward to having a sidewalk that I can get to and then walk to the post office and get more exercise and be healthier. Thank you. Oh, and being able to get from Surf Market back out to the street due to COVID, I shop early in the morning, like 7:30, so that when I leave, there's not like massive amounts of campers on either side and I can't see who's coming. And I was less frightened taking a racing course at Sears Point than I am leaving the Surf Market parking lot. I am literally clenching my fist with white knuckles, terrified to turn left. That's got to change. That's really got to change. Thank you.
Okay, any other new comments?
I want to just follow up on one of the comments that Dave Spock made regarding the landscaping and local support for that. So I do want to, since we have several community members here, just take take the opportunity to say that although Caltrans will install landscaping, it is their policy that landscaping, they don't maintain landscaping. So that'll be something that'll, can be worked out down the road, but just something to think about now that there will be, a plan for local maintenance will need to be developed at some point.
Tom Murphy.
Yeah, just a couple of quick follow-up questions. I want to add my congratulations on the landscaping decision. That was the number one thing that people wanted in this plan. And it was very important. But I wanted to check on the timing of this. And of course, the devil's always in the details. Maybe Jamie could answer this. When we could see some details, when you'll be having a public review of this, would you be going to the Gualala MAC with this? Is there a way for, say, Gualala to participate in this on behalf of our 1,700 supporters? We'd be very interested in seeing those details and getting more information.
Here in the request now, Tom, yes, answer is yes. We would be happy to share and get feedback and ensure that there's buy-in before we finalize a document. We haven't discussed this yet with the project development team. The changes are really fresh. So we'll need some time to get things drawn up and make it presentable and have something clear to communicate. So I don't have a timeline on that right now, but I imagine a minimum of a couple months. So the project development team will get together and develop a timeline for engagement on this new alternative.
Okay, good. Is there somewhere I can send my name to make sure I get updated on that? I used to be on GMAC, but I've recently left and want to stay on the inside on this.
A great contact would be Liza Walker, and make sure that you want to be contacted. If you don't have her email, we could put it in chat, and you could always contact me as well, Jamie Mattioli. I'll if it's okay to put my email in the chat, I'll do that.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for the update, and glad to hear the project's moving ahead and the grant application submitted, and sounds like the community is pretty happy with the direction of the project. If there's no other comments, it looks like we could probably go to our next, Director Connie.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a quick congratulations to the residents of Gualala. I know this has been a long time coming. It sounds like great progress is being made. As a Willits resident who went through the bypass, I'm jealous that you got landscaping. We got holes for trees, but no landscaping. And it really does add to community pride and help express to visitors your community. So congrats to you, and thank you for all the hard work from both Caltrans and MCOG on this, moving this project forward.
Okay, great. Well, thanks. We're going to go to then item number 9, which is the addendum to the fiscal year 22-23 MCOG budget.
Okay, that is mine. Yes, ma'am, just keeping up with paper here. Yes, so this is a very minor amendment. It's relatively minuscule amount of money. Could have gone on consent calendar, but I wanted to be able to call out Executive Director Barrett's appointment as chair to the Rural Counties Task Force of the California Transportation Commission, which is an honor and a privilege to be seated as that. And I just thought that should be noted. She does not get any more compensation for that, just more work. So kudos for that. So this is, I tried to think of a simple way to do this, just to add it to the budget, make it transparent and show up there and be able to track it through. So what we're proposing here is just add another allocating resolution to the budget document. And that's before you there. You have my staff report and the draft resolution. And it would simply add the $38,500 of the dues revenue, which is voluntary dues. So that's something that MCOG would invoice and collect from the member agencies, and then that money would be used to offset and defray any expenses that Executive Director Barrett has in executing those duties, and which it would be things like travel. We don't have that so much anymore, but there may be travel coming up now, and any various communications expenses, supplies, that kind of thing. And so I've got it added to the overall budget spreadsheet here, and your sheet here, summary as local agencies. This year we don't have any other local matching funds, so it fits nicely right there. And then the other place that should show up is under the Exhibit C to the existing allocating resolution that describes how administration funds go to the Down Associates contract. That's in the Feely Bears contract. So we've just added a paragraph to that to say that the funding source is voluntary membership dues, and we would invoice for those dues, and then when there are expenses, to claim reimbursement for that, and run the money through the local transportation funds administration account. So that's it in a nutshell. It's fairly simple process, I think, for us to manage that. And are there, Nifili, would you like to add anything, or are there any questions?
Okay, Director Brown.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Acknowledge, or excuse me, seconded by Ignacio, and congratulations, Nafili.
Thank you.
Congratulations, you more work, yeah.
Yeah, congratulations. I get to work harder. Yeah,
Good job.
Thanks.
Right, but it's a good group, you know, a lot of collaboration goes on and keeps us all informed, so.
Yes, it is a really good group.
Okay, do we have any public comment on item number 9? Not seeing any. Can we have a roll call?
Director Jim Brown,
Yes.
Director Mike Carter,
Yes.
Director Greta Connie,
Yes.
Director Scott Ignacio,
Yes.
Director Tess Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director John Haschek,
Yes.
Tasha Ostran,
Yes.
and Chair Dan Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to recess. Thank you. We're going to recess as the Policy Advisory Committee and reconvene as the Regional Transportation Planning Agency. Do we have a motion to ratify the action of the Policy Advisory Committee?
I so move.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call?
Yes. Director Jim Brown,
Yes.
Director Mike Carter,
Yes.
Director Greta Connie,
Yes.
Director Scott Ignacio,
Yes.
Director Tess Alban Smith,
Yes.
Director John Haschek,
Yes.
and Chair Dan Jurdy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to reports. Any report from Caltrans District 1?
Yeah, hi. I invited Jeff Wright to attend today to give updates on a few projects, including the McNabb and Crawford Creek projects on US 101, and the Capella 2 bridge replacement project, and the James Creek safety and project and curb improvement. So I'll hand it over to Jeff.
Hello, good afternoon. We'll start at Calpella. We have the Calpella Bridge Replacement Project, as you may be aware. There's 2 bridges there on Highway 20, just as you leave Highway 101 headed east toward Lake County. There's a bridge that crosses the Russian River, and then there's another short bridge that crosses east side Calpella Road. We broke ground about 2 weeks ago on that project, and we're in the current process of building the new fill for abutment 8 of the new structure, and that'll be on the east side Calpella Road. We have traffic control on east side Calpella Road with intermittent traffic control to allow trucks to ingress and egress the construction zone for fill placement. You may have also noticed that there's a 250-ton Libera crane erected, and that will be servicing the bridge construction. We're in the process of doing foundation construction. The bridge has 7 or 6 piers and 2 abutments to make up abutment 1 through 8 and 6 piers. And so that work is starting as we are proceeding here. I don't know if there's any questions about that explicitly. I'd be happy to answer them.
Not see any.
Moving on to the James Creek curve safety improvement on Highway 20. That project is proceeding. We broke ground on that also about 2 to 3 weeks ago. There are 3 locations on that project on Highway 20. One will be doing some guardrail improvements, and the second location will be a curve realignment where we're actually cutting into the hillside to realign that. And then the third location is a curve realignment where we're shifting the road to the north by building a gabion basket retaining wall to improve the alignment there for traffic safety. We broke ground on location 3, and the other 2 locations are pending permit conditions and availability to start that work. But that work is expected to be completed by early December of this year. Are there any questions about that project?
Just generally, would that also conclude the work on Highway 20 for this foreseeable future? I mean, there's been a series of little projects going on.
Yeah, no, there's actually several projects that are going on Highway 20. We just recently completed a micro seal or chip seal project. There's also a paving project that's currently underway. Part of it's on the 7-mile grade, part of it's just as you come into Willits, and that's a paving improvement project that's in progress. And is not explicitly part of the James Creek project that was requested update on. The other 2 projects that I think you were looking for comment on is the work on Highway 101. There's actually one project that has 3 locations. There are 2 locations on Highway 101, one at the Crawford Creek Bridge, one at the McNabb Creek Bridge. And last Sunday night, we installed the detours for McNabb Creek Bridge and the Crawford Creek Bridge. And as many of you are probably aware, there was an accident this morning at about 6:20 a.m. There was a cement hopper truck that was hauling dry cement that apparently failed to negotiate the detour somehow. We don't know exactly what happened. We're still waiting on the accident report from the CHP, but there were 2 vehicles involved, at least 2 vehicles, maybe 3. And that cement truck fell over in the detour and came to rest on the bridge rail. There was another vehicle that was in the accident, and we're currently detouring traffic through our active work zone so that we can clean up the accident and clean up the diesel spill and make repairs so that we can reestablish the detour there. It's an unfortunate event, but it was an accident. So those 2 bridges, Crawford Creek and McNabb Creek, they have very similar detour strategies that are being implemented, and those are anticipated to be working through also about the end of December. The 3rd location on that project is out on Highway 162, which is separated from these locations. I'm not sure if there were other updates that were requested for that particular project.
Any questions or comments? Okay, not seeing.
Well, excuse me, not on that one. I'm curious about at the Willits bypass on the southern interchange, if you could describe that project. It's been going on for some time.
Sure. At the south interchange of the Willits bypass, we have an emergency director's order project where this last winter we had a saturated subgrade on the northbound lane of Highway 101 that resulted in a slope failure where the slope slid down towards the northbound off-ramp. And coincidentally, at the same time, due to groundwater, we had a slope failure on the slope above the southbound on-ramp at the south interchange, where the rock buttress that was placed several years ago was moving, and we actually had the flow line of the ditch on the west side of the on-ramp was originally graded at 3 feet below the pavement level, and that had deformed such that the old flow line of the ditch was about 5 feet above the pavement level. So we had a significant deformation due to a landslide that was occurring there. And our geologist looked at it, gave us a revised repair strategy where they had us remove all the rock off the slope, recut the slope at a 3.5 to 1 slope ratio, where it was originally cut at a 2 to 1 slope ratio. And then we're placing the rock back on the slope to try to stabilize that slide. As many may remember, before the bypass was built, that area, people called it the sugar slide because the dirt kind of resembled brown sugar when it gets wet, and it just kind of melted and slid down the slope. So it's been a long-standing problem that we're hopefully resolving this time. You know, the geologists looked at the surrounding landscape, and most of the hills have a slope ratio of 3 to 1. So we're hoping the 3.5 to 1 ratio will make it stabilize and not have to work at this location again. I'm not sure if that outlines what you were interested in. If not, I could try to clarify my answer.
Yes, thank you. It looks like a lot of work. It looked like a pretty big project. Is that shop funding, and do you know how much that's costing?
It's the current budget for that project is about $4.5 million, and we think we're going to come in either on or slightly under budget. And it's funded through the director's order. To be honest, I'm not sure if it's shop funded. I don't think it's STIP funded.
Director Connie?
Is there a timeline on that project when it might be finished?
So it's a little bit of a moving target because of other work we have going on, but we're hoping that by approximately the 1st of October we'll be done, but we have to see how the production rates go. You know, we were originally hoping we'd be done by about Labor Day, but it's taken longer than the projections from the field staff. So we're hoping that by about the 1st of October we'll be complete with that project.
Thank you.
Director Hashak.
Yeah, speaking of that project, it seems like there's some flat areas being constructed just to the north of that off ramp, and then also to the south of the construction zone. So what is that all about?
So to try to clarify that, as I mentioned, we flattened the slope, so we had to remove dirt from the cut slope, and we needed a place to dispose of that. And so we consulted with our environmental team and found locations essentially on site where we were able to dispose of all that newly generated cut material. And it was a smart move for the project. We did an environmental review. We found no sensitive areas in the places where those fills are being built, and we're reducing trucking significantly by hauling it on site and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And so we built 2 new fill areas, one to the west on Highway 20, immediately adjacent. It's in between the railroad tracks and the interchange. And then south of the changeable message board that's at the south interchange, we built a fill there in a low-lying area that was adjacent to the highway, and it was a convenient, close by on-site disposal of that material. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, so there's no plans to do anything except fill.
No, it was just a disposal site for excess material.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, not seeing any other questions. Thank you for the update.
Welcome. Thank you.
I have a few more, if that's okay to continue.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to remind everyone that Covelo Large Item Dump Week is scheduled for Monday, August 22nd through Saturday, August 27th. And that'll be 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Covelo Transfer Station. And I'll drop a link to the poster in the chat. I also wanted to mention the 23-24 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. It will be announced really soon, but I'm just trying to put it on everyone's radar as soon as possible because there'll be a one-time opportunity for climate change and adaptation planning funding in the amount of $50 million. So I'm encouraging everyone who has the capacity to apply to do so. And then also the Coastal Commission approved the coastal development permit for the Elk Creek Bridge Replacement Project last Wednesday, and that's a SHOP funded project through Caltrans. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for those updates. Do we have an update from MTA?
Sorry about that. My computer wasn't working with me. We are continuing with our zero emission bus program. We're on track for our 3 cutaways for the Fort Bragg area. Hopefully the build out will be the end of this year. There were some supply chain issues which have now been taken care of. And then I'll be working with Janet or staff over at MCOG on doing our state of good repair application. That's it.
Okay, all right, well, thanks. Great Redwood Trail.
Well, this is John Haschak. We had a meeting this morning, and they're finalizing the contract with the consultant Alta to develop the master plan for the Great Redwood Trail, and there's a community engagement plan in that. So they'll be reaching out to people along the Great Redwood Trail. There was also a settlement agreement with MCM about with the Judicial Council about the property in Ukiah. And so that's a good one. It's been a long haul on that one. So it's good to get that taken care of. And that's about it.
Okay, that would take us to MCOG summary of meetings. Anything you'd like to highlight there? We've got the report.
Yeah, nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, not seeing any.
All right, I can move on to the next report then, which is the Regional Energy Network and Climate Protection Agency update. So this is just an update on the progress of the rural REN application. So several months ago, the MCOG board approved participation in the newly proposed Rural Regional Energy Network with several other rural counties. Following MCOG's approval of that, the REN, which is being administered by Redwood Coast Energy Authority in Humboldt County, put in their business plan and application to the CPUC, and that had to go through a comment and hearing process. So at our last meeting, I had mentioned that there was a possibility that the rural REN application would be consolidated with some other business plans that are on a different timeline. Ours was a more expedited timeline. These other business plan applications were on a longer timeline. At the time of our last meeting, I thought it was unlikely that that would happen. Unfortunately, it did. So the CPUC decided to consolidate the rural REN application with the other applications that are going forward. That means a delay in kickoff of the REN activities of about a year. So we had previously thought we would be sort of ramping up this fall to begin in early 2023. Unfortunately, it's looking like it's now going to be January of 2024 before the REN activities could begin. So that is unfortunate. It was really all just in the hands of the CPUC, so there isn't really anything else that can be done to start that before the CPUC finishes their process. We will continue to participate in the rural hard to reach working group that's the group that sort of founded this, and we are still waiting on their completion of their amendment to their bylaws that allow us to become a full member of that group, which is sort of the first step to becoming the full REN member. Their last couple of meetings have been canceled, unfortunately, so they haven't been able to take action on the bylaw amendment yet. So we expect that might be happening this fall. So that's my unfortunate update on that process. Are there any questions on that?
Well, just thank you for the follow-up on this.
Is there anything you need us to do, Nephili?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it's really now that it was late June, the CPUC made this ruling, and I mean, there's really nothing that can be done at this point. It's just going through the process, and now that it's been consolidated with the other applications, they've made that ruling, and yeah, there isn't really anything else that can be done at this point.
I'll just note there are a few more details on that in your information packet.
Yes. All right, I'll go on to the next report then, which is an update on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So this is just going to be a very kind of high level report. So the IIJA is the new federal infrastructure bill. In the past, we have had typically 5-year transportation infrastructure bills. This one is a little broader ranging, so it includes infrastructure other than just transportation, but it does include our 5-year authorization of transportation funding as well, like a typical federal transportation bill would. So it continues continues funding a lot of existing programs, increases funding on quite a few programs, and creates some new programs. So whenever there's a new federal transportation bill, it always takes a while to figure out what that's going to mean locally. And we're not at that stage yet. They're still working on developing how the federal funds will be used at the state level. There are multiple working groups that are taking place to figure out the details. One decision that they have made is the 60-40 split. So there's always an agreement on the split between the percentage of the funds, the federal transportation bill funds that the state gets, and the portion that local agencies get, or local and regional agencies. So they did agree on 60% state, 40% local and regional, which is historically what it has been for the last several federal transportation bills. So that doesn't mean that, every program is split 60-40. So there are certain programs that go entirely to the state. There are certain programs that will go, entirely or mostly to local governments. But overall, it'll be 60% state, 40% local funding. So I'll just kind of highlight a few of the programs that we know about. Like I said, we don't know. I mean, at this point, all we really know is sort of totals statewide, but we don't know what that'll look like locally. And then it's also important to note that the names of these funding programs don't always match the names of the state programs that they flow into. So for instance, the Transportation Alternatives Program is federal funding. That TAP funding flows into the ATP. So federal TAP funds flow into California's Active Transportation Program. So some of these program names may not be familiar. So just to kind of go through the California's National Highway Performance Program, their funding will increase by almost $400 million annually from previous levels. There is a local portion of this that goes entirely to the local bridge program. So we should see an increase in local bridge program funding. Another program of local interest is the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program, STBG. So this will increase by approximately $150 million in the first 2 years. Again, this is a 5-year bill, and then approximately $250 million annually throughout the rest of the 5-year period. And also the STBG funding from the federal government does include a set aside for the Transportation Alternative Program that I mentioned, and that it has increased the set aside of TAP funds from this program. We'll also have increases, additional increases in bridge program. There's a new a new bridge replacement, a new needs-based apportionment of the bridge replacement, rehabilitation, preservation, protection, and construction program that will total $4.2 billion in the 5 years, $4.2 billion for the state of California in the 5 years of the bill. The Bridge Investment Program is a new competitive bridge funding program and is funded at $12.5 million over 5 years. There are several new nationally competitive programs that would increase freight and goods movement. We haven't had a lot of experience with some of these locally, but for instance, there's the infra program, and that is funded at approximately $1.6 billion per year. And that, again, this is a program that's just a national program, so it's not a state distributed program. Another one is what was formerly called the RAISE program, and before that it was BUILD, and at one point it was also TIGER. So this particular funding source changes with each federal bill. They are now calling it Local and Regional Project Assistance, and it will emphasize safety, sustainability, and equity. And it is funded, let's see, it doubles the current funding levels for that program. So the current funding levels for the RAISE program will be doubled in the Local and Regional Project Assistance Program. And that is, again, a federal competitive program. Other programs of interest, the Highway Safety Improvement Program, or HSIP, is getting a pretty good increase. This is a program that is, it funds local street and road safety projects. This is what we've just wrapped up, the consultant program or consultant project to develop the local road safety plans that identify projects for the HSIP funding program. So under IIJA, California's HSIP funding will increase by approximately $50 million annually for the first 2 years of the 5-year bill, and then by $75 million annually in the following years. So that'll be, I think that program funds a lot of good projects, safety projects, and it does include set-asides for specific smaller projects as well. IIJA has created a new Safe Streets for All program. This is a competitive program for regional and local governments and tribal governments to develop and carry out comprehensive safety plans to prevent death and injury on roads and streets. And this is funded at $5 billion for the 5 years of the federal bill. 2 new programs have been created. One is the Carbon Pollution Reduction Program, and that is funded at $6.42 billion nationally. And California is estimated to receive about $555 million. And then the other brand new program is PROTECT, Promoting Resilient Operations for Transformative, Efficient, and Cost Savings Transportation. So this will be, it will be a grant program that provides $7.3 billion nationally to help states improve the resilience of transportation infrastructure. California is estimated to receive $631 million over the 5-year period of the bill from that program. There are also some new zero emission vehicle funding programs to help fund charging infrastructure and additional FTA funding. There's a really significant increase in the low and no emission vehicle program. So it is an increase in the first year of the bill, it is an increase of 523% above the previous year funding level. So that's a really significant increase in that particular FTA program. So those are just sort of some of the highlights. Like I said, it is very high level at this point, and we won't know what that'll look like locally. I think it's safe to expect that we'll see some increase in the local agencies will see some increase in the STBG funding. I think we will see some increase in the active transportation program, a further increase. Well, it's already been increased actually for this current cycle as a result of this because of the increased TAP funds from the federal government. So I think we'll continue to see those types of increase. But as far as more details on what it'll look like locally, those should be continuing to kind of trickle out over the next few months. That's my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Nafili, thanks for the update. Was that an update you compiled, or was it from an association you're part of, or is that something you could forward, I guess is what I'm getting at?
It is, yeah. So there's I have this is an information sheet, or it's not a sheet, it's an informational analysis, I guess, from the California State Transportation Agency. It doesn't have the most current information, but it provides some good kind of high level information. So I can share that.
That'd be great. Okay. Any questions for Director Barrett? Okay, not seeing it. Thanks for the update.
Looks like I've got the next one. The rural electric vehicle charging grants. There have been awards proposed as of June 24th. And this is a really interesting program. We actually had a carve out for the 16 rural counties members of the North State Super Region. So that tells us that they must have been listening to comments we've been making, writing letters and commenting on the program out of the ZEV working group, the North State working group that we've been meeting as. So this solicitation from the California Energy Commission came out just before the holidays last December. So it was kind of a scramble to pull something together in time for the March 11th deadline. But we did get some responses, very notably the County of Mendocino, and our Chair Judy, you can probably speak to that. Looks like you've got a project for over 655,000 there that is proposed for award. The awards will be made at a regular business meeting of the commission, and we're looking at September most likely. But it looks like the Northern California did pretty well. 6 of those ranked in the top tier, enough to get some funding. And not only that, but a program that started at $4.8 million was bumped up to $22.5 million. So that's their prerogative to do that. And you know, they've got a pretty healthy clean transportation program with some huge investments in that. So lucky for us, there are some more awards going to Mendocino County. County's project was one of those. It looks like there's a couple others that we just don't know exactly. They're private sector. We don't exactly where those locations will be, but waiting to find out where those will go. And our sister agencies up in Lassen, the utility district there, I think this is in Susanville, got a project, and Redwood Coast Energy Authority, our partner on things like the rural brand and other planning projects we've done. Looks like they got a $700,000 project. So it's all good news. And as I've noted in my staff report, increasing the number of level 2s in Ukiah, even though we do have gaps on the highway network. And I did try to find a partner to fill some of these gaps, like in Gualala has been waiting a long time for any kind of public charger. Boonville doesn't have anything. Of course, there's nothing in Covelo. I made an effort to reach out to at least 3 companies and you know, partners we've worked with before and haven't worked with did try to put something together. I don't know if we're going to end up with anything, but I was not able to put that together. But the county's project has level 2s, and I just want to say that is consistent with our regional zero emission vehicle readiness plan, which does call for more chargers in Ukiah, as it's the largest population center and has an even larger daytime workforce population. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And Dan, do you have any more information on the project you worked on that looks like it's getting an award? And I noticed there's a very large matching amount, so maybe you know something about that.
Well, so with the one-time PG settlement funds, the county had $22 million. We and the board allocated those to kind of a variety of projects that we're preparing for the next disaster or mitigating that last one. And in that, we included $2 million for carbon reduction fund. And so what we looked at an assessment of all county buildings and the county operations is that by switching our power source outside of the city of Ukiah to Sonoma Clean Power's Evergreen program, and inside the city of Ukiah to their new renewable energy portfolio that I think will be available pretty soon, that even though we have some natural gas used for heating buildings, that the vast majority of the county's carbon emissions comes from its fleet. And so our goal is to electrify the county vehicle fleet as quickly as we can, which is not happening with lightning speed. But so this is sort of the pilot project. We're trying to install these charging stations in a way that could be used by the fleet at nighttime, but by the public during the day. What it kind of shows, though, is that kind of a charger where you're having a credit card payment or a payment system it's pretty expensive. And so when you see those around town or around the state, they're fairly expensive to install. I think over time, we'll probably be installing at the county and other local governments more simple level 2 chargers that don't have a payment system, but those will be needed to be installed like in a secure parking lot, or maybe with padlocks or something. Sonoma Clean Power actually did that with really simple chargers, but they're not available to the public. And so this particular grant was looking for chargers that be available to the public to encourage them to charge as they're traveling. So the need for the more expensive chargers. But I think over time, we can actually get the cost of installing these down, partly by just getting more institutional knowledge and understanding within county general services about how to do it. And secondly, just by the type of chargers that are installed in the future are probably going to be, some of them in the future will be not for the public, but just for the fleet.
So just to be clear, the ones you have planned there for the county admin building, those would not have credit card. Those would be free charging. Is that right? That would be provided for.
No, these are I believe these are the fancy ones with the credit card payment and all that for the public. That's why they're kind of expensive. So, but they will be in the front of the building for the public to use during the day, and then county vehicles will be charging at night. Like I said, I think in the future there'll be additional chargers installed in more remote locations that are not really intended for the public to charge.
Oh, I understand now. Thank you.
Director Ignacio?
Yeah, I was wondering, maybe you said it. What is the name of the provider that the county is working with to make that project go forward?
It's not on this list, and I don't remember.
Okay, all right.
It's one of the 3 or 4 big name companies.
Yeah, I just happen to be looking. It's not ChargePoint, is it?
It could be. It could be ChargePoint.
All right. We're looking here on the coast for new charging, so I'm going to be watching very intensely of how your guys' project goes on. Thank you.
Okay, Director Brown.
Yeah, thank you. During public expression at our last city meeting, we had a citizen really advocate for more electric charging stations in Ukiah. If there's anything we can do, if you get any information, if you could pass that on to myself, I sure would appreciate it. And but for these charging stations, they are all going to go at the admin center. Is that correct, Dan?
This particular grant, it's 12 charging stations, I think, at the admin center and 4 at Yokeo. south of the co-op. And but they're all in the front area where the public would be using them during the day, but at night they charge county vehicles. And the plan is definitely to install more over time. Unfortunately, I'd almost hate to tell you what the expected time frame for the county general services, but it's like maybe not for another 2 to 3 years to actually install these. It has to be engineered. And I mean, Ukiah, the city of Ukiah, because you do have, you run the utility, you guys probably honestly have a far more staff with far more knowledge about how to install these than any of the local governments outside of the city of Ukiah.
Yeah, and we have several scattered around town, so we do have experience at installing them. It's just coming up with the funds and finding the proper locations. So, thank you.
Yeah, there are email lists you can get on at the Energy Commission, Clean Transportation Program, and get notifications when there are funding opportunities and things like that. Probably get way more information than you want.
Well, and I know our grants guy, Mr. Robbins, is probably on top of that, looking for EV grants all the time. So thank you.
They're coming along, and so this is a lot of progress. And at the same time, the private sector is out there also. So you may have noticed in Ukiah over at the Crossroads Center at Rayleigh's, Tesla just finished putting in a whole long row of chargers there for Teslas, and
for all Tesla,
not for everybody else, but they're coming. We're just seeing more and more of that. Different companies coming in and putting them where they can. I'm assuming that's going through city permitting and county permitting departments. So there's probably some intel you can get there. But yeah, it's picking up speed now, or we're starting to see a lot of action on this front.
Director Connie?
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that we tend to think of these charging stations as being solely good for the environment, but they also, I want to remind everyone, are good for our local businesses. Here in Willits, we've had multiple customers recently tell us that they just purchased EVs and they're browsing longer and staying in town longer while they charge in our local charging stations in the city parking lot right behind the bookstore. So we're seeing a benefit. And I think that all of our Mendocino County businesses could benefit from that by having more charging stations available near our business districts.
That's a good point. And, people want fast charging, but there's a good reason to have some of those level 2s, or people call them slow now, but they used to be kind of the standard. But it gets people to stop a little longer and check out the town. And, a lot of the emphasis in our North State Working Group is on kind of ecotourism and getting visitors and travelers to come visit our beautiful rural areas and spend some money, while they travel in their electric vehicles. So it's definitely a strategy. It should have some economic benefits.
Well, okay. Well, thanks, Janet, for the update.
You're welcome.
So take it to planning staff.
I've got one miscellaneous item before we move on to planning. So I just at the last MCOG meeting, the board voted to oppose AB 2237, which would have taken away local control, or it proposed reducing local control of funds in the Regional Transportation Improvement Program and even local sales tax measures, and would have placed a lot of additional planning requirements on all regional transportation plannings, including rural transportation planning agencies, without the additional planning funds that or larger MPOs receive for those same responsibilities. So I'm glad to say that is not moving forward. That bill got enough opposition that it will not be moving forward, certainly this year, and I doubt that we'll see it come back next year. So that's it.
Okay. All right. Now on to planning.
Good afternoon. I have a written staff report in your packet. We wanted to let you know about the feasibility study for our grant project, the mobility solutions for rural communities of inland Mendocino County. We are happy that we had a successful second procurement round, and we now have a good team on board led by AMA Transit Planning. And I think you're familiar with the project description, but I kind of summarized it there in your staff report. Basically, this study is going to be looking at the 5 rural communities of Covelo, Laytonville, Brook Trails, Potter Valley, and Hopland. These are areas that are not easily served by traditional transit services. So we're looking at innovative mobility solutions. And we have a busy week next week with the consultant going into each of these communities and holding community listening sessions. I know in past reports, some of you have been interested in this and even perhaps wanting to comment. So we invite you to the listening sessions. If you're not available, we invite you to submit comments through the website, or you can always send your comments to me and I will relay them. And we're starting out Monday in Covelo, so looking to see any of you that can be there. And then Tuesday we'll be in Laytonville, Wednesday in Hopland, Thursday in Potter Valley, and Friday in Brook Trails. And we'll have some staff at some of these meetings along with the consultant. And we've advertised them. The consultant has purchased a sponsored targeted Facebook ad. Today I heard there were over 4,000 hits on that ad, or they could tell how many people had viewed it. And I saw that our press release was published in Willits Weekly, and we've seen that we're starting to get some press. We've sent out a couple rounds of press releases. The consultants have done targeted individual household mailings to every household in the 5 communities. So once again, this is a Caltrans grant project that's just getting started, and we'll keep you updated on it. It's going to be about a 1-year project, and we've been into it for a couple of months. So just now, really getting going on the public outreach. So I'd be happy to answer any comments on that or answer any questions
Thanks,
on that.
Laura. Yeah, Director Hashak.
Yeah, Loretta, I'd just like to thank you and whoever you're working with about all the outreach, because it certainly seems to be getting out there, and I think people are talking about it and excited to have some input into what goes on with transportation in their communities. So thank you.
Great, good to hear.
You know, this may be the first time I've seen a plan like this where it's really focusing outside of Mendocino County's version of the urbanized areas.
Right. Well, you know, we hear every year at our unmet needs hearing about serving some of these communities with transit. And since that doesn't seem to be workable, we're, wanting to look at some other solutions. So we're really expecting some good recommendations from this study, and we welcome your input. And then going on to just a couple of miscellaneous, if I can, we will soon be working on and distributing an RFP for a feasibility study for the MTA Ukiah Transit Center. So that will be going out in the not too distant future. And that project, it's a $150,000 study funded in our work program to hire a consultant to do that feasibility study. And then lastly, I know Nafili mentioned it, but we did wrap up our local road safety plans for the county and the 4 cities. So the agencies now have what they need to apply for the HSIP funding cycle that's due in September. So we're happy to say that project is completed. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, not seeing any hands raised or questions. I guess that takes us to director's reports. Any director reports? Dr. Carter. Director Carter, were you trying to raise your hand?
Yes, I have 2 mice on my desk and I grabbed the wrong one. I would just like to mention to Tasha the contractor who worked on the bridge into the Irvine Rest area did a phenomenal job. That bridge is really smooth. All the holes are filled in. They did a really great job, and I want to thank you for that, because that's the main entrance to get into where I live. So thank you.
Great. Thanks for saying something. I'll be sure to pass that along.
Yeah, I believe they also worked on the bridge that's just north of where I am, right around the Shamrock Ranch, and they did the same thing there, and it's fantastic. The people there really like it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks.
Dr. Hashak.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Caltrans for their work on the Covelo dump days. You know, it's going to be a fantastic project, 6 days of dump days there. And the community is really coming forward, getting, their act together to coordinate activities, get volunteers out there. Even I talked to Jim Russ, who's the chair of the Round Valley Indian Tribes. And he said that they were hiring people to go to the elders in the community and help them load up, the old stoves or couches or whatever they're going to dump. And so it's really, the community's taking it to heart, I think. So I really appreciate Caltrans' effort on that.
Thank you. It's been incredible to see how successful these events have been. It's been great.
Okay. Do we have any CalCog updates?
I believe the next CalCog board meeting is this Friday at 1.
Yeah, and the last one I went to was, in place of Tesson. It was on July 15th. And it was really, the budget had just been passed, and so there wasn't much going on.
Well, so yeah, I'm sure in not too distant future, they'll probably put together their kind of summary of where they see the time frame for the money to flow, because Bill Higgins and CalCog are always on top of that. Okay, well then.
Thanks for doing that, John.
Sure.
Okay, well then at 2:57, we are adjourned.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.